I need you to step out of the car, sir, right now. Why were you going that fast?
Step back right now. I am giving you a direct order. Move!
Officer, I am complying, but I know my rights.
Steady, deliberate, visible. Cole approached, hand on his holster. License and registration, he barked, voice sharp as the rain. The driver met his eyes, tired, composed, no trace of fear. Of course, officer, he said evenly, moving slow, every gesture careful, rehearsed. The glove box clicked open. Papers. A government ID peeked from the corner. An eagle emblem. Golden lettering. Cole snatched it before the man could speak. His jaw tightened as he read, Dr. Elijah Ward, Director, FBI National Academy. For a breath, silence. Only the rain tapping the badge on Cole's chest. Cole's smirk faltered. This a joke? His tone cracked under disbelief. No, Elijah replied softly. But what you just did isn't. Cole's pulse spiked. He scanned the ID again, then the calm, unblinking eyes before him. Eyes that saw too much. His radio buzzed, a dispatcher's voice cutting through the static. Unit 47, confirm. Do you have visual on Director Ward's vehicle? Repeat, Director Ward, FBI Academy reported en route to D.C. for security clearance briefing. Cole froze. His throat went dry. Elijah didn't move. His voice was quiet now, almost a whisper. You just profiled the man who trains your superiors. The rain seemed to stop for half a second. Then the radio crackled again, louder this time, demanding response. Cole's finger hovered over the transmitter. He didn't press it. Not yet. Headlights cut through mist. Officer Darren Cole's patrol cruiser rolled along Route 19, empty save for a single sedan up ahead. Midnight shift. He was bored, twitchy. When the sedan drifted an inch over the line, he flicked his lights on. Failure to maintain lane, he muttered, the excuse ready before he even reached the car. Rain pattered on his uniform as he approached. Inside, the driver's hand stayed high. Evening, officer, came the voice, measured, calm. Cole leaned in. License and registration. The driver nodded, movements deliberate. They're in the glove box. May I reach for them? Cole smirked. Go ahead. The glove box opened with a click. A wallet, some papers, a federal badge. Cole's eyes narrowed. What's this? Identification, the man said. Dr. Elijah Ward. Cole flipped the ID open, reading the words aloud. Director, FBI National Academy. He scoffed. Cute. You print that yourself? No, sir. Elijah's tone didn't waver. You stopped me without cause. You know that. Cole leaned closer, voice low. You fitting a description, that's all. Elijah's jaw tightened. The description being black and driving after midnight. Cole's fingers brushed his holster. Watch your tone. Elijah inhaled through his nose, eyes steady. You should be watching your training manual. The radio hissed. Unit 47 copy, Director Ward's convoy rerouted, confirm visual. Cole froze. Elijah spoke softly. You might want to answer that. Cole's thumb hovered over the mic. His pulse thudded. The dispatcher repeated, Unit 47 respond. Do you have Director Ward in sight? Rain struck harder now, a drumbeat on metal. Cole's mouth opened. No words came. Elijah watched him silent. Finally, Cole pressed the radio. 10-4. Static swallowed the rest. The fluorescent lights in the precinct buzzed with a faint hum, steady and merciless. Officer Darren Cole sat at his desk, still in uniform, rainwater drying in uneven streaks across his sleeves. His patrol report glared back at him from the computer screen. Half finished? Cursor blinking like a metronome of guilt. He'd already rewritten the first line 4 times. Traffic stop conducted on Route 19. Driver identified as... He stopped typing. His reflection stared back from the dark monitor, eyes sunken, jaw tight. Director Elijah Ward, he finally added. His fingers hesitated, then deleted director. Rewrote it as individual, then deleted that too. Captain Hayes's door opened behind him. Cole, the voice called, low and heavy. In my office now. Cole stood, throat dry, and walked in. Hayes sat behind his desk, sleeves rolled up, the smell of old coffee mixing with gun oil. The blinds were half closed. Sit. Cole obeyed. Hayes studied him. You realize who you pulled over last night? Cole nodded, jaw tight. I know who he said he was. Hayes's eyes sharpened. And now you know who he actually is. He leaned forward. The director of the FBI Academy. The man who trains our federal command. The press doesn't have it yet, but they will. Cole exhaled, fingers digging into his knees. It was a clean stop. No laws broken. I followed procedure. Hayes let out a dry laugh. You followed procedure by demanding ID before stating your cause? By calling for backup on an unarmed federal official? By keeping your hand on your weapon? Cole's eyes flicked up. He was reaching for his license. Hayes's tone dropped cold. You know how many cameras saw that? Your dash cam, his car, the highway unit 2 miles out. This isn't going away. Silence thickened. Cole stared at the floor. So what now? Hayes leaned back, sighing. Now you rewrite that report. Carefully. You remove anything that sounds racially loaded. Keep it procedural, technical, no adjectives. You understand? Cole's voice was flat. So lie. Hayes gave a small, humorless smile. Call it departmental phrasing. Cole clenched his jaw. He'll file a complaint. He already did, Hayes said. This morning. Through federal channels. Washington's calling our chief as we speak. You're suspended from field duty until further notice. Administrative review. Cole's stomach twisted. You're benching me? Hayes's tone softened slightly. Temporarily. Look, Darren, you're not the first. It's bad optics, that's all. We handle it, it goes away. But if you dig in, if you make it about race, Cole's eyes flicked up. It wasn't about race. Hayes looked at him for a long, heavy moment. Then why'd you pull him over? Cole's mouth opened, closed, no sound. Hayes nodded slowly. Exactly. The captain stood, walked to the blinds, peered through them. The Bureau will want statements by tomorrow. You keep your answers tight. Stick to facts. Don't editorialize. And for God's sake, don't talk to the press, Cole rose. Understood. As he turned to leave, Hayes added quietly, I'll do what I can for you, but don't expect miracles. Cole paused at the door. You think I'm racist? Hayes didn't answer immediately. He rubbed the bridge of his nose, exhaled. I think you got careless. And when people like us get careless, the narrative writes itself. Cole left without replying. The locker room was empty except for the hum of the ventilation. He sat on the bench staring at his reflection in the steel door. His phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from a blocked number, 2 from his wife, 1 from an unknown DC area code. He answered the last one. Officer Cole? A woman's voice, sharp, clipped, bureaucratic. This is Special Agent Reyes with the FBI Office of Professional Responsibility. Director Ward has submitted an incident report concerning your stop last night. We'll need your official statement within 24 hours. Cole swallowed. I already submitted a preliminary. We'll need a full statement. Direct submission to our office, not your department. He frowned. That's not protocol. Reyes's tone was surgical. This isn't local anymore. The line clicked dead. Cole sat there, listening to the hollow ring fade. He felt the ground shift under him. Something bigger than policy, heavier than guilt. He returned to his desk, opened the unfinished report again. The cursor blinked. He began to type. Traffic stop initiated at 23:47 hours due to observed lane deviation. Driver identified as Elijah Ward. Interaction remained professional and compliant. He paused. His own words sounded foreign, sterilized. He backspaced compliant, replaced it with non-confrontational, then deleted that too. He typed again. No incident occurred. The lie looked clean. Across town, Elijah Ward sat in his office at the Hoover Building. The city lights stretched below, cold and glittering. His assistant placed a folder on the desk. Printouts, photos, body cam stills. They've already started scrubbing, she said. His department's changing timestamps. Elijah nodded slowly. Expected. Should we go public? He didn't look up. Not yet. The assistant hesitated. Sir, if we delay— Not yet, he repeated, quieter. They'll bury it unless we let them hang themselves first. He leaned back, rubbing his temples. The image of Cole's hand hovering near his weapon replayed in his mind like static. He felt the echo of that moment, frozen between fury and control. He spoke finally, almost to himself. Every file leaves a trail. At 2 a.m., Captain Hayes made a call. His voice was low, cautious. Yeah, we're containing it. He'll stick to the script. Just make sure it doesn't hit the press before Monday. A pause, then a strained laugh. He's too proud to realize he's the sacrifice. When he hung up, the precinct was silent again except for the faint, mechanical hum of the fluorescent lights above. Outside, the rain began falling once more, washing over the asphalt, steady and unrelenting. Inside, Cole hit save on his report. The computer chimed softly. File complete. He sat there for a long time, staring at the words on the screen. Then, in a low voice no one could hear, he muttered, "They'll believe it." But his hands were still shaking. The footage hit the internet at 6:42 a.m., a 97-second clip. Grainy but unmistakable. The flashing patrol lights. Officer Cole's hand hovering near his holster. Elijah Ward's calm, deliberate voice saying, "You should be watching your training manual." The video ended right before the radio transmission that named him director of the FBI Academy. By 7, hashtags trended nationwide. By 7:15, cable news anchors rehearsed their lines. "Another traffic stop gone too far," one said. "A misunderstanding, surely," countered another. By 8, Cole's name was public. At home, Cole's phone exploded with notifications. He hadn't slept. His wife stood in the doorway, robe pulled tight. "What did you do, Darren?" He stared at the TV, his own face frozen mid-frame, rain on his cheek, anger in his eyes. "It wasn't supposed to be recorded." "It's everywhere," she whispered. "They're saying you profiled him. That you threatened him." Cole rubbed his temples. "He baited me." Calm, calculated, he knew exactly what he was doing. His wife's voice trembled. "He didn't pull the gun, Darren." "You did." Cole shot her a look sharp enough to cut. "You think I'm some racist cop now, too?" She didn't answer. He stood, grabbed his keys. "I have to get to the station." At the precinct, chaos. Reporters lined the entrance. Flashes burst like gunfire as Cole pushed through, head down, sunglasses on. Inside, Captain Hayes was already shouting into a phone. "No, we did not authorize release." "Yes, we're investigating the source." He slammed the receiver down when he saw Cole. "Who leaked it?" Cole demanded. Hayes gave a grim laugh. "Does it matter? The world's seen enough to crucify you." Cole dropped into a chair. "It's out of context." Hayes lit a cigarette he wasn't supposed to have indoors. "Everything's out of context when the country wants a villain." He slid a folder across the desk. Inside, screen captures, transcripts, online comments. Cole's eyes skimmed the first line. "Racist cop caught harassing FBI official." Next, "Same county that buried complaints for years." His throat tightened. "They're making me the symbol." Hayes's voice softened. "Someone always is." Cole leaned forward, desperate. "We can fight this. The Bureau will clear me. Ward's one of theirs." Hayes hesitated. "You really believe that?" Cole stared at him. Hayes exhaled smoke, slow and deliberate. "He's their hero now, son. You're just the reminder they needed." Across town, Elijah Ward watched the same footage in silence. His communications director, Malik, stood by the screen. "It's gone viral, sir. 2 million views already. Do we issue a statement?" Elijah shook his head. "Let them talk first." "Sir, they're dragging his name through the mud." "I don't need to drag it," Elijah interrupted quietly. "It'll collapse on its own." Malik frowned. "You don't sound happy about that." "I'm not." Elijah leaned back, watching himself on screen. The scene replayed in loops, the same moment frozen in 1,000 comment threads. He could almost feel the rain again, smell the asphalt, hear Cole's voice, defensive, brittle, frightened behind the arrogance. "You know what they'll say," Malik murmured, "that you're using this for politics." "I'm not running for anything," Elijah said. "Doesn't matter. They'll make it a war." Elijah rubbed his jaw. "It already is." By noon, protesters gathered outside the precinct. Signs read, "Justice for Elijah and end the profiling." Cole watched from a second-floor window, hands buried in his pockets. "They don't even know what happened." Hayes joined him, jaw tight. "They know enough. They think I'm a monster." Hayes sighed. "You acted like one, at least for 90 seconds. That's all anyone needs now." Cole turned on him. "You told me to rewrite the report. I told you to protect the department. You failed." Cole's face went pale. "You're hanging me out to dry." Hayes didn't deny it. "We can't both drown, Darren." The captain walked away, leaving the younger man alone at the window as the crowd's chant rose. No more silence. No more lies. That evening, national networks aired the clip with commentary. A polished anchor's voice filled living rooms across America. Sources confirmed the driver was Dr. Elijah Ward, director of the FBI Academy. The officer involved has been placed on administrative leave. Federal officials have not commented. The image cut to a talking head. This is what systemic bias looks like, said one. An overreaction, plain and simple, argued another. In a smaller square of the screen, Elijah's photo lingered beside Cole's. 2 men, 1 story, 1 country staring at its reflection. At 10 p.m., Cole received a voicemail from an unknown number. The voice was calm, steady, familiar. Officer Cole, this is Director Ward. I imagine today's been illuminating. A pause. You wanted to know what power looks like when it's turned against you. Now you do. But remember, what you feel isn't injustice. It's accountability. Another pause, heavier now. You still have the chance to tell the truth before they decide it for you. Click. Cole replayed the message twice, jaw locked. Then he hurled the phone across the room. It shattered against the wall, the sound sharp and final. Outside, the chant still echoed through the night, louder, faster, relentless. From his window, Cole watched the reflection of his own red and blue patrol lights on the wet asphalt. For the first time, he wondered which color he belonged to. The conference room smelled of recycled air and disinfectant, neutral, sanitized, deliberate. The kind of space built to strip emotion from truth. Officer Darren Cole sat at the far end of a long table. His badge lay in front of him beside a sweating bottle of water. He hadn't touched either. Across from him sat 2 internal affairs investigators, both in plain suits, both expressionless. A third chair remained empty. The door opened. Elijah Ward entered quietly, flanked by a federal liaison. He wore a dark gray suit, no tie. His movements were calm, unhurried, the kind of composure that came from long years of watching men try to lie to him. Cole's shoulders tensed. Didn't know this was going to be a show trial. Elijah's eyes flicked toward him, unreadable. It's not. It's a record. The lead investigator, Sergeant Lynn, cleared her throat. This proceeding is a formal departmental inquiry regarding the Route 19 incident. Both parties are here voluntarily. She pressed a button. A small red light blinked on the recorder. Begin, Cole leaned forward. I already filed my report. We've read it, Lynn said. Now we'd like to hear it under oath. Cole glanced at Hayes, sitting in the corner as departmental observer. The captain's face was stone. Fine, Cole muttered. I observed erratic driving behavior, initiated a stop, followed protocol. The subject appeared. He stopped himself. Cooperative. There was a misunderstanding regarding identification. Situation de-escalated without incident. Lynn's eyebrow lifted. Without incident? Cole nodded stiffly. Elijah spoke for the first time. Your hand was on your weapon for the entire duration of that non-incident. Cole's voice sharpened. Standard safety measure. For a single unarmed man who kept his hands visible? Elijah asked. Cole's jaw clenched. I didn't know who you were. That's the point, Elijah said quietly. The room fell silent for several seconds. Lynn broke it. Officer Cole, were you aware of the department's bias training policy? Yes. When was your last session? Cole hesitated. 2 years ago. Lynn nodded, making a note. You stated the driver fit a description. Please clarify. Cole's throat tightened. There was a bolo for a dark sedan earlier that night. License plate match? No. Suspect description? Cole hesitated again. Male, late 30s. Elijah's tone stayed mild. That's it? Cole's eyes flicked up. Look, I didn't pull you over because you're black. Elijah interrupted, voice calm but cutting. You pulled me over because I could be, Cole shot back. You think you know what it's like on patrol at midnight? You think about the danger. I think about danger every day, Elijah said, his voice low but firm. The difference is I don't get to invent it. The silence that followed was raw, jagged. Even Lynn looked away briefly. Hayes spoke from the corner. Gentlemen, let's keep this focused on procedure. Elijah turned to him. Procedure's the problem, Captain. Hayes stiffened. You're not here to lecture my department. Elijah's gaze didn't waver. Then why am I here? To pretend this was an accident? Cole's hands balled into fists. You think I'm some kind of monster. I was doing my job. Then maybe the job's broken, Elijah replied. Lynn raised a hand, regaining control. Let's proceed. Officer Cole, were you aware your dashcam audio was active during the stop? Cole frowned. Yes. Then you're aware it recorded your statement. You fitting a description, that's all. Cole looked down. That's not what I meant. Lynn didn't blink. What did you mean? He didn't answer. Elijah spoke again, tone gentler now. You ever wonder why your words came out that way? Cole's voice cracked slightly. I was on edge. It was raining. It was late. I what? Cole hesitated, voice falling to a whisper. You didn't look like someone who'd belong in that car. The admission hung in the air like smoke. Lynn clicked her pen closed. That's sufficient for today. Cole's head shot up. That's not fair, she stood. Fair isn't the metric here. Accuracy is. Hayes rose as well, expression unreadable. We're done. Elijah remained seated, studying Cole. His voice was soft but carried weight. You think this ends with me? Cole stared at the table. Doesn't it? Elijah shook his head. There'll be another man. Another stop. Another excuse. The only thing that changes is who's watching. He stood, collected his folder, and turned to leave. But before exiting, he paused at the door. You know what I tell my recruits? Cole didn't look up. Power's only dangerous when it forgets who's human. Then he was gone. After the room cleared, Hayes lingered. Cole sat motionless, breathing shallow. Hayes finally spoke. You shouldn't have said that thing about the car. Cole's eyes were glassy. I told the truth, yeah, Hayes said. And truth gets men fired. He started toward the door, then stopped. They're convening a disciplinary board. You'll probably lose your badge. Cole exhaled slowly. What about you? Hayes didn't turn. I'll say I warned you. The door closed behind him. That night, Elijah sat alone in his office, the city lights cold beyond the glass. The recording from the hearing played on his laptop, the words, the pauses, the tone. When Cole's voice reached the line, you didn't look like someone who'd belong in that car. Elijah closed the laptop. He sat in silence for a long time, watching his reflection in the window. The face staring back wasn't angry. It was tired. He whispered almost to himself. It never ends. Outside, the Capitol dome glowed faintly through the haze, a symbol, a promise, a lie. Somewhere in a precinct 2 cities away, another officer was writing another report. And the system turned quietly, like a machine that never slept. Morning light filtered weakly through the blinds of Elijah Ward's office, streaking the desk in bands of gray. The night's hearing still echoed in his head. The clipped voices, the pause before Cole's confession, the hollow quiet afterward. He tried focusing on the stack of reports before him, but the words blurred. His eyes drifted to an old photo framed on the shelf. A younger Elijah, fresh suit, standing before the Quantico Academy flag. The pride in that photo felt like it belonged to someone else. He leaned back in his chair, the memory drawing him in without permission. 15 years earlier, he was 29, Agent Elijah Ward, one of 6 black trainees in a class of nearly 200. The hallways smelled of sweat, gun oil, and ambition. Ward. A voice called out behind him as he headed toward the range. It was Instructor Price, a white man with a square jaw and a permanent smirk. Yes, sir? Price gestured to Elijah's firearm. You cleaned that yourself? Yes, sir. Price examined the weapon, sniffed. Not bad. Didn't think you folks were big on maintenance, Elijah blinked. Excuse me? Price smiled thinly. Just saying, attention to detail isn't what I usually see from recruits with your background. Laughter rippled faintly from 2 cadets standing nearby. Elijah's fingers twitched, but his voice stayed measured. With respect, sir, I graduated top of my class in forensics. Detail's what got me here. Price's eyes gleamed with mock approval. Good answer. Let's hope you can shoot as well as you talk. He walked away. The cadets avoided Elijah's gaze. That night, Elijah sat in his dorm, disassembling and reassembling the firearm again and again until his fingers ached. His roommate Marcus, a soft-spoken trainee from Atlanta, watched quietly. You let him get to you, Marcus said. I let him test me, Elijah replied. Marcus chuckled. You always got an answer, huh? Elijah looked up. Only when silence costs too much. Marcus studied him. You really think you can change this place from the inside? Elijah didn't hesitate. That's the only way it ever changes. Weeks later, the Academy's marksmanship evaluations arrived. Elijah shot a perfect score, first in his group. When Price read the results, his face stayed blank. Good shooting, Ward. Thank you, sir. Price's tone shifted lower, colder. Don't get too comfortable. Scores don't erase perception. Elijah held his gaze. No, sir. But they make it harder to ignore. The next month brought another test, tactical scenario drills. Elijah was assigned as team lead. Mid-exercise, a staged civilian suspect appeared. Elijah ordered his team to hold fire and detain. The suspect was unarmed. Afterward, Price pulled him aside. You hesitated. I made a judgment call, Elijah said. Price's smile was razor thin. In the field, hesitation gets you killed. In the field, bad judgment gets someone else killed, Elijah countered. The report that followed labeled him hesitant under pressure. The label stuck for years. Every promotion he earned carried a quiet asterisk. Competent, composed, but too cautious. He learned to live with it. Elijah blinked back into the present. The memory left a dull ache in his chest, one that time hadn't erased. He looked again at the photo. His younger self, unaware of how many battles lay between that day and this one. A knock on the door pulled him out of thought. His assistant, Malik, stepped in. You okay, sir? Elijah nodded. Just remembering. Malik hesitated. They're talking about opening a bias review across departments. Your name's all over it. Elijah exhaled. They'll expect me to testify. You will, won't you? Elijah stared out the window, the city sprawling in quiet gray. I've been testifying my whole life. Malik frowned. You think it's worth it? Elijah's voice was soft. It has to be, or none of this means anything. Malik nodded slowly, then left him alone. When the door clicked shut, Elijah picked up the old photo again. He whispered, You wanted to change it from the inside. Then, almost to himself, maybe you still can. He set the frame down carefully, aligning it with the edge of the desk. Precise as ever. Outside, the morning sun rose higher, pale light cutting across the city. For a brief second, it caught on the glass of the frame, making the younger man's smile shine again, hopeful, unscarred. Still believing the system could listen, the light shifted, and the moment was gone. The press trucks arrived before dawn. By the time Officer Darren Cole reached the precinct, satellite dishes bloomed like silver weeds across the parking lot. Reporters shouted his name from behind barricades. Microphones thrust through the gaps like bayonets. He didn't look up. Inside, the air was thick with unease. Phones rang, voices murmured, doors shut too quietly. No one met his eyes. He walked to his locker and found a single folded memo taped to it. Administrative termination. Pending. Hearing scheduled 0900. Hours. His hand shook slightly as he tore it down. Captain Hayes didn't look surprised when Cole barged into his office. Tell me this isn't final, Cole demanded. Hayes didn't answer right away. He was on the phone, staring through the blinds at the reporters outside. When he hung up, he turned slowly. Sit down. I'm not sitting. You said they'd suspend me, not fire me. Hayes rubbed his temples. That was before the second video. Cole frowned. What second video? Hayes slid a folder across the desk. Inside were screenshots, cell phone footage this time. A gas station camera across from the highway had caught everything. Cole approaching, the hand on the holster, the words, you fitting a description. That's all. Someone sold it to the media this morning, Hayes said. Unedited. Audio crystal clear. Cole dropped into the chair, staring at the still frames. So that's it. My career gone? Hayes' tone was flat. You made it easy for them. Cole's jaw tightened. I did what every cop does. You told me to fix the report, yeah, Hayes said. And I told you to stay quiet. You didn't. You went home, you called reporters, you talked about being set up, you made noise. I was defending myself. You were feeding them blood. Hayes stood, pacing. The chief's cutting you loose. Internal affairs will make a statement. Isolated misconduct, that kind of thing. You're the face they can afford to lose. Cole stared at him, realization hitting like a slow punch. You're protecting the department. I'm protecting myself, Hayes said, voice hardening. This job eats people, Darren. You just didn't learn how to stay out of its mouth. By noon, the official press release went live. Officer Darren Cole relieved of duty pending formal review for violation of departmental conduct policy. Investigation ongoing. Cable networks ran it in red banners. Talk shows debated whether Cole was a symptom or a scapegoat. Cole sat alone in his car, parked across from the precinct, watching his fellow officers file in and out. No one looked his way. Not one. His phone buzzed, a call from an unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. Officer Cole, the voice said, calm and steady. Elijah Ward. Cole's throat tightened. You enjoying the show? Elijah ignored the jab. I heard about your termination. Cole laughed bitterly. You mean your victory? Elijah's tone didn't change. There's no victory in this. You ruined me. I didn't leak that footage. Doesn't matter. You could have stopped it. There was silence on the line for a moment. Then Elijah said, I spent half my life trying to stop things like that. Tell me, did it ever occur to you that maybe you ruined yourself? Cole gripped the phone until his knuckles whitened. You don't know what it's like walking into danger every night. Elijah cut in, voice sharp now. Danger doesn't excuse disrespect. Power doesn't erase responsibility. Cole's voice cracked. What do you want from me? Elijah paused. The truth. Click. The line went dead. That afternoon, a news crew ambushed Cole outside his house. He shoved past them, muttering no comment as cameras flashed. His wife stood on the porch, arms folded, eyes rimmed with red. Don't bring that circus here, she said coldly. I didn't ask for it. You made it, she snapped. You had everything, 10 years clean pension, respect, and you threw it away. I was doing my job. She shook her head. You were proving something. I just don't know what. He didn't answer. Inside, the house was dim, curtains drawn. The walls seemed smaller now. Every sound amplified. The refrigerator hummed, the ticking clock, the low murmur of a TV from the neighbors. Cole dropped onto the couch, exhaustion swallowing him. On the screen, a panel discussion was underway. Systemic bias training still hasn't fixed behavior patterns. Ward's restraint in the footage has made him a national figure. Officer Cole's case highlights the need for accountability. His name had become shorthand for failure. He turned the TV off, sat in the dark. At Quantico, Elijah met with the Bureau's ethics board. The room was full of men in suits, polite smiles masking discomfort. We appreciate your cooperation, Director Ward, one said. But this level of exposure, these interviews, might reflect instability. Elijah looked up from his notes. You're worried about image, not reform. We're concerned about public confidence, the man corrected. Public confidence, Elijah repeated quietly. That's what they called it when they told my father to wait his turn in 1968. The table fell silent. Another board member cleared his throat. This can't become political. It already is, Elijah said. Back at home, Cole sat on his porch with a beer, the street quiet around him. His badge lay on the table beside him, dull under the porch light. He turned it over in his hand, the metal cold. Across the street, a neighbor, an older black man he'd waved to for years, walked by. For the first time, the man didn't nod back. Cole felt the weight of it like a stone in his chest. He called out, Hey Frank, come on, you know me. The man didn't stop walking. Cole stared after him, words dying in his throat. He looked down at the badge again. Once it had meant purpose. Now it just looked like evidence. Inside, his wife's voice broke the quiet. They called from the union. They're cutting legal support. Cole didn't turn. Of course they are. She hesitated in the doorway. What are you going to do now? He didn't answer right away. His gaze stayed on the street, empty except for the hum of a single streetlight. Finally, he said, I don't know. And for the first time since the night of the stop, the words felt honest. At that same hour, Elijah stood in his office, watching a news anchor's voice fade beneath the city skyline. His reflection in the glass looked older than it had yesterday. Cole's collapse didn't feel like justice. It felt like confirmation of a system built to break men differently, but break them all the same, he whispered to no one. There's no winning in this. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, slow and certain, promising another storm. The knock came just after midnight. Elijah had been sitting at his desk, the room lit only by the dim blue glow of his monitor. Reports, statements, departmental memos, each a different version of the same story. Bias, denial, silence. He hadn't been sleeping well. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the flash of headlights on that dark road. Heard the voice behind the badge telling him to step out of the vehicle. The knock came again, slow, deliberate. He rose, crossed the hall, and opened the door. Darren Cole stood there. Rain slicked his hair, his jacket, his eyes hollow with exhaustion. He looked older than his years, jaw unshaven, shoulders hunched beneath the weight of something heavier than regret. Elijah didn't move. "You shouldn't be here." Cole's voice was low. "I know." Neither spoke for several seconds. The only sound was the rain hitting the pavement. Finally, Elijah stepped aside. 5 minutes. Cole entered, dripping onto the hardwood floor. He glanced around the small apartment. Bookshelves lined with case files, framed degrees, a coffee mug still half full beside the computer. Everything precise, controlled. "I didn't know where else to go," Cole said quietly. "You have a lawyer." "Had," Cole corrected. "The union dropped me." Elijah folded his arms. "So you came here, why?" Cole hesitated, his throat working before the words came. "I need to understand." "Understand what?" Cole's voice cracked slightly. "Why I got this far. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone that night." Elijah studied him. "But you did." Cole's jaw tightened. "I made a mistake, sure. But I've seen worse go unpunished." "That's the problem," Elijah said. "You think worse is the standard." Cole flinched. "You don't get it. People like you, talk about justice, but you've never worn that uniform, never walked into a neighborhood where everyone hates you before you say a word." Elijah's tone stayed even. "And you think being hated justifies treating someone as less than human?" Cole's voice rose. "I was scared, all right? You don't understand what fear does to a man in that moment." Elijah's eyes hardened. "I understand fear. I've lived it my whole life, in classrooms, boardrooms, on roadsides. The difference is mine never came with a gun and a badge." Cole's breath hitched. He sank into a chair, rubbing his face. "I thought being a cop meant control. But when everything went public, I realized I never had any. They used me, Hayes, the department, the press. I'm the villain now and they all get to walk away clean." Elijah sat across from him. "You're not wrong about that. They'll sacrifice one man to save the machine." Cole looked up, surprised. "So you do think I was set up?" Elijah shook his head. "No. You were complicit and then discarded. That's how systems protect themselves. You were the weapon until you became the liability." Cole swallowed hard. "And what about you?" "You won, didn't you? You're the face on the news now." Elijah gave a small, humorless smile. Winning would have meant it didn't happen in the first place. For a long time, neither spoke. The clock ticked softly. Rain tapped against the window. Finally, Cole said, "I lost my wife. She took the kids to her mother's. Said she can't let them see me like this." Elijah's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes softened. "Actions echo, Officer Cole. They always do." Cole nodded slowly. "Yeah, guess I'm hearing mine now." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small envelope. He slid it across the table. Elijah frowned. "What's this?" "My statement," Cole said. "Everything. Hayes's orders, the falsified reports, the other cases he buried. It's all there. You'll know what to do with it." Elijah didn't touch the envelope. "Why give it to me?" Cole met his gaze. "Because you'll use it for the right reasons. And because I can't carry it anymore." Elijah stared at him, weighing the words. "You know this could end careers. Maybe even lives." Cole exhaled, a tired, broken sound. "Then maybe that's justice." He stood. At the door, he paused. "For what it's worth, I am sorry." Elijah didn't respond. He watched Cole step back into the rain, shoulders bowed, disappearing down the quiet street. When the door clicked shut, Elijah sat again, staring at the envelope. For a long while he didn't move. Then he opened it. Inside were typed statements, departmental memos, even photographs. Proof of what had long been whispered but never written. Patterns of cover-ups, intimidation, falsified evidence. He felt the weight of it in his hands, the truth, heavy and cold. Outside, thunder rolled again. Elijah looked toward the window, rain streaking the glass like tears. Somewhere out there, Cole was walking into the dark, maybe searching for redemption, maybe just running from it. Elijah whispered to himself, "There's no peace without the truth." Then he turned back to the desk, opened his laptop, and began typing his report, his fingers steady, his pulse slow, every keystroke echoing like a verdict. The hearing room at Quantico smelled of coffee and disinfectant, cold, bureaucratic, soulless. Rows of press and federal observers filled the back. The seal of the Department of Justice gleamed on the wall like an unblinking eye. Elijah Ward sat at the center table, his suit crisp, hands folded. In front of him lay a single binder, evidence submitted, Cole affidavit. Across the room, Captain Hayes entered with a lawyer and an air of forced composure. The cameras flashed. He didn't look at Elijah. At the rear, unseen by most, Darren Cole sat quietly in the last row, head down, a plain gray suit replacing his uniform. His hands trembled as he clasped them together. He wasn't part of the proceeding. He was evidence now. The lead commissioner, a tall woman with silver hair and a voice sharpened by decades in courtrooms, adjusted her glasses. Director Ward, you initiated this hearing by submitting documentation alleging systemic misconduct within the Richmond Police Department. You understand the gravity? I do, Elijah replied. His tone was level, but his pulse thrummed in his ears. Proceed. Elijah rose, opening the binder. What you have before you are 15 reports, each written by Officer Cole under directive from Captain Hayes. The reports document fabricated probable cause, falsified timestamps, and omissions of force used during stops involving minority civilians. These were not accidents. They were patterns, the lawyer for Hayes interjected. Objection. These allegations are unsubstantiated based on testimony from a disgraced officer. Elijah turned a steady gaze toward him. That disgraced officer provided internal memos signed by Captain Hayes himself. They matched departmental logs. The commissioner gestured. Continue. Elijah tapped a page. 3 months ago, I was stopped by Officer Cole. I was treated not as a citizen, not even as a human being, but as a threat defined by skin tone. What happened to me was not new. It was the byproduct of culture, one that Hayes nurtured. A low murmur rippled through the audience. Hayes's jaw clenched. The commissioner looked over her notes. Captain Hayes, you are under oath. Do you wish to respond? Hayes leaned into the mic, face expressionless. These so-called documents are fabrications. Officer Cole was unstable. He acted independently. The department had no knowledge. From the back, Cole's voice broke the silence. That's a lie. Every head turned. Cole stood, shoulders rigid, voice shaking but clear. You told me to fix those reports. You told me to make sure the optics stayed clean. I did everything you said. The commissioner's gavel struck once. Officer Cole, you are not recognized as a witness. Elijah raised a hand. Madam Chair, I request he be heard. His testimony completes the record. The room buzzed. After a tense pause, she nodded. Proceed. Cole walked to the front. His steps echoed. When he faced Hayes, his eyes were wet but steady. You used me, Cole said. You made me believe I was protecting the badge. But all I did was protect you. Hayes's lawyer hissed, Mr. Cole, you are under oath. I know what I am. Cole snapped. And I'm done lying. He turned to the panel. There's a file on every officer who crossed the line. Hayes buried complaints, destroyed dashcam footage. He told us to keep the peace by any means, but it wasn't peace, it was control. Hayes rose suddenly, voice booming. You were the one who lost control. You humiliated the department, the city. And you trained me too, Cole cut in. You said fear kept us safe. You were wrong. The commissioner slammed the gavel again. Enough! The room fell silent. The only sound was the hum of the overhead lights. Elijah stepped forward, his voice calm but hard as steel. This hearing isn't about one bad officer. It's about a structure that rewards silence and punishes conscience. He placed the final page on the table, a signed statement from Cole, corroborated by internal timestamps, surveillance metadata, and Hayes' own directives. The commissioner read quietly, lips tightening. Then she looked up. Captain Hayes, based on preliminary evidence and testimony, this committee recommends immediate suspension without pay pending criminal review. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Hayes stood frozen, color draining from his face. His lawyer whispered, We'll appeal. But everyone knew the cameras had already captured the verdict that mattered. After the session adjourned, the hallway filled with voices, reporters shouting questions, phones flashing, security trying to contain the chaos. Cole stood against the wall, drained. Elijah approached him. You didn't have to do that, Elijah said quietly. Cole gave a tired half-smile. Didn't I? You just burned every bridge you had left. Maybe they weren't worth crossing. They stood in silence for a moment. Cole exhaled. You were right, you know. It's not about one man. It's the whole damn foundation. Elijah nodded. Then maybe we start rebuilding it. Cole looked at him, a faint trace of relief in his eyes. You think that's possible? Elijah's gaze drifted toward the glass wall where reporters clustered. the flash of cameras reflecting like lightning. Not overnight. But truth has gravity. It pulls everything back eventually. Cole extended his hand. For what it's worth. Thank you. Elijah hesitated, then took it. The handshake was brief, firm, heavy with things unspoken. Cole turned and walked away, shoulders lighter than when he'd entered. Outside, rain had stopped. The air carried that washed, clean scent of new beginnings and buried sins. Elijah stepped onto the courthouse steps, cameras instantly turning his way. A reporter shouted, "Director Ward, is this justice?" He paused. Looked at the sea of microphones. "No," he said quietly. "It's accountability. Justice takes longer." He moved past them, descending the steps slowly, each footfall echoing through the humid air. As he reached the bottom, he glanced up at the flag rippling against the gray sky, torn slightly at the edge, still flying. Behind him, Hayes was escorted out in cuffs, flashes erupting like gunfire. The image would play on every screen by nightfall. Elijah didn't turn to watch. He didn't need to. He walked toward the waiting car, the horizon glowing faintly with dawn. The system had cracked open, if only a little. And for the first time in years, he felt something close to peace, not triumph, not relief, but the quiet certainty that truth, once spoken aloud, could not be taken back. 3 months later, the city moved on, or at least pretended to. Headlines faded. Broadcasts found new crises, and the public's outrage cooled into apathy. The hearings that had filled every feed now sat archived behind paywalls. But beneath the calm, the ground still shifted. The Richmond Police Department's leadership was replaced. The Justice Department announced an oversight task force. A few officers resigned quietly. Others took early retirement. Hayes remained under federal indictment, his trial pending. The system had consumed one of its architects and was already rebuilding itself around the wreckage. Elijah Ward knew that pattern too well. He stood in front of the FBI Academy's lecture hall, speaking to a class of recruits. The lights hummed, notebooks rustled. His voice carried calm authority, but his eyes betrayed fatigue. "Every system creates habits," he said. "Habits of silence, of suspicion, of justification. Your job isn't to protect them, it's to break them." A young woman in uniform raised her hand. "Sir, do you believe the system can ever be truly fair?" He paused, considering. Fairness isn't a state, it's a struggle. The moment you think you've achieved it, you've stopped fighting for it. Murmurs of pen scribbling followed. When the session ended, Elijah gathered his papers slowly. Outside, the sun fell through the glass, slicing the room into light and shadow. A faint reflection caught his face in the window, older, sharper, but still standing. He walked the quiet halls toward his office. On the wall hung a framed headline from months earlier. FBI Director exposes police misconduct, nationwide reform under review. He hadn't framed it. Someone else had, maybe as a gesture of pride. He considered taking it down every day. Inside his office, a package waited on his desk. No return address. He opened it carefully. Inside lay a badge, tarnished, scratched, edges dulled by time. Beneath it, a short note written in shaky pen. "I don't deserve to wear it anymore, but maybe you'll remind them what it's supposed to mean. DC." Elijah stared at the badge, the rain-dulled brass catching faint light. Cole. He leaned back in his chair, the memory of that midnight visit flickering like an echo. He hadn't heard from Cole since. Rumors said the former officer moved west, working construction under another name. No charges filed, just disappearance. Elijah picked up the badge, turned it in his fingers, and placed it in a drawer. Not as a trophy, an artifact. A warning. That night, as he drove home through the winding Virginia roads, the same stretch of highway came into view. The one where it had all begun. He slowed as he approached the intersection. The traffic light flicked from green to yellow. He stopped. The roadside still carried the same cracks in the asphalt, the same battered sign half hidden in weeds. For a long time, he sat there, engine idling. The radio played faint jazz. He thought of all the faces, Hayes, Cole, the reporters, the recruits. Everyone changed, yet nothing entirely different. Justice had moved inches, not miles, but inches mattered. In the reflection of the windshield, his own eyes looked back at him, tired, yes, but unbroken. He whispered to himself, "Keep it honest, keep it human." Then the light turned green. Days later, a news anchor's voice filled living rooms across the country. In a surprising turn, former police captain Raymond Hayes has entered a plea agreement, admitting to obstruction and falsification of records. The Department of Justice has confirmed new disciplinary standards for state law enforcement training. Elijah watched the broadcast from his couch, muted. On screen, the anchor's lips moved, but he already knew the script: reform, accountability, transparency. Words recycled every decade, rearranged for the next storm. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Cole. Heard the news. Guess truth travels slower than lies, but it still gets there. Elijah read it twice before replying. Elijah. It got there because you helped carry it. No reply came. Just the blinking cursor, then silence. He set the phone down and turned off the TV. The house was quiet. Outside, thunder grumbled faintly in the distance, like memory refusing to sleep. The next morning, he walked the training grounds before sunrise. Fog rolled across the grass. The recruits hadn't arrived yet. The world felt paused. He reached the flagpole where the fabric hung heavy in the damp air. With a slow motion, he raised the flag. The metal pulley clinked softly, echoing across the stillness. When it reached the top, he stood there, hands clasped behind his back. He thought of his father, marching, teaching, warning him that truth was a burden you didn't get to set down. He thought of Cole, broken but finally honest. And he thought of the nameless faces behind every file in his cabinet. People stopped, searched, silenced, forgotten. He closed his eyes. For a moment, the air felt cleaner. Then footsteps approached, one of the young recruits saluting sharply. Morning, Director, Elijah nodded once. Morning, the recruit hesitated. Sir, and what happens now? After everything? Elijah looked toward the horizon where the fog was lifting, pale light spreading through it. Now, he said quietly, we start again. The recruit nodded, uncertain but listening. As Elijah walked back toward the building, the sun broke through the mist, thin beams cutting across the academy grounds. The sound of distant drills began. Orders shouted, boots striking dirt. Another generation beginning the same imperfect duty. And behind it all, somewhere deeper, was the faint echo of a man's voice from a rain-soaked night, confessing what it meant to be afraid and finally seen. Elijah carried that sound with him, not as a wound, but as proof the system had cracked, yes. But through the crack, light had entered.